Star Wars video games go really far back, and a lot of us think probably the first one was the Atari game or maybe the arcade Star Wars game. Well, I got two you probably never heard of. Well, welcome back to the Junkman, everybody. It's me, the Junkman, coming back at you with another video. A little history lesson for Star Wars fans out there, especially if you're a fan of the video games. Like I said in the opening, most of us think the first video game, or when we talk about the first video game of Star Wars, probably the first one that comes to mind is the arcade Star Wars game where you had to attack the Death Star. I can remember probably early 80s going down to a local bowling alley that was close to my house, walking down there, and they had this. First, my brother told me about it, how it had talking from the movie. You could hear Obi-Wan's voice, something crazy for a video game. It was very exciting, and I had to walk down there myself and check it out. So with a pocket full of quarters, I headed down to the arcade. Now, a lot of us also remember probably the first Atari game to come out was Empire Strikes Back in 1980. This was the only video game I can think of where the object of the game is to lose. No matter the outcome, you lose. You either run out of speeders. I think you start with like 4 of them. They blow up when they hit AT-ATs or get shot down by AT-ATs. Or the AT-ATs reach the base. So either way, you lose. It's kind of a crazy concept for a game. And then Atari ported over the arcade game into a home release for Atari. But what if I told you there was Star Wars games before that? Okay, these aren't official licensed games, but at least one of them was made by Apple. Well, 2 of them was made by Apple. That's right. You think they're just a phone company? They're not. Apple makes computers. I think you all know that. I hope you do. So let's talk about the very, very first game released for the Apple computer, and it's called Star Wars. Not Star Wars, Star Wars. It came on a cassette tape. Oh, you remember that? When games, I would call it video games. Can you call it a video game? I guess so. It is video. Right? It come on a cassette tape, you put it in, and if you listen to the cassette tape in a normal player, it sounded like dialing into American Online. You know that. You know that? That's what it would do. But let's take a look at the game itself. The game was released for the Apple computer back in 1977, again called Star Wars, just one word. And on the back of the cassette was Star Trek, just one word. Now this was not an official release by Lucasfilm, and to not get sued, they did change the name to Star Warriors. As you can see here, there are some cheap graphics, but at the time, 1977, this was state-of-the-art graphics. This was unbelievable graphics for a home computer. If you were a kid playing this, it felt like you were in the movie. It did. It felt like you were in the movie. And what did Apple do? Well, they made Star Wars version 2. Titled Star Wars V2, it was a space combat game that was used for the Apple computer to demo the new Apple II. It was based on the Star Wars game released the year before by Bob Bishop. Apple computer was approached by executives at 20th Century Fox who told them they could not continue to demo the game with the Star Wars trademark. Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak said that he admired that this was one of the first game demos for Apple II's high resolution mode, but Steve Jobs thought it looked lousy. So that was 2 games for the Apple computer. One game, one was a demo game, But what about that other game? What was it for? The Atari? The Intellivision? Klinko? No, it was for something I never heard of. Well, let's take a look at it. Simply titled Star Wars, is an unlicensed video game developed by RCA Corporation in 1978 for play on the RCA Studio 2. I never heard of the Studio 2. Don't know anyone had it as a kid, but maybe you did. This takes place during the events of Star Wars. The player is piloting an X-Wing fighter and has to destroy TIE fighters. As you can see, it's not that good of a looking game. I mean, I think even for 1978 standards, this one's pretty cheesy. Now, I couldn't find out information that this company got sued for it, but the way Lucas and his people were watching out for anything Star Wars related that wasn't an official release and going after them, I'd be surprised if they didn't get a letter from a lawyer from Lucasfilm. They were really strict about not having official licensed stuff out there. Well, that's a look at two of the earliest games related to Star Wars that a lot of people seem to have forgotten about. Looking at them, maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's a good thing we forgot about them. I'm not sure. I never played them, so I can just go by how they look, but to be honest, maybe back then they were hours of fun. Today I could play for maybe 2 minutes, and I don't even think I could play for 2 minutes. 2 seconds probably. Anyway, did you have these? Did you have that RCA home video system? I did. I never even heard of it. Let me know that and more in the comments below. And until the next video, thumb up so you like my content. Subscribe to the channel. We'll talk again.
Hey, Junkman channel popping though.
Thank you, sir, for that unsolicited testimony.